And man, I'll tell you what, this is going to sound crazy. If anybody wants to think I'm nuts, I've had one call where it's kind of funny to say this, where I just went, if there's such a thing as demonic possession, this might be it. And because you deal with unstable people all the time, but this one call I had, it was just like, you're not thinking that when you're on the call. You're not thinking, oh, that's just the devil. I've seen The Exorcist. I can just, power of Christ compels you. Let's move on.
What do you mean by call? Like,
I got called to I was working with this young officer, and we got called up to this house up here on the mountain over by, it's up here on top of High Ridge at Franklin Hills area, way up here. Beautiful, beautiful neighborhood.
Yeah.
And the call comes in on the computer, and it says this guy wants his wife taken to the psychiatric center. He just looked, the officers to give her a ride. And I was kind of like, man, that's your wife, that's your problem, man. You take her. But I felt like a dick when I got there because it was anything but. We get there, we knock on the door, and this elderly man opens, and he says, hey, my wife's been in the psych center for months. They've let her go, and she needs to go back. And I'm afraid to put hands on her because I don't want to fight her. I don't want her to fight back, and I don't want to be accused of hurting my wife. We've been through enough. I'm a jerk, man. She starts telling me a little bit about her, right? He says, well, she's upstairs. She's been out, I don't know, a few weeks, but she's not eating. She hasn't showered. She's not taking care of herself. She's not on her meds. And she's just been pacing up and down, back and forth, just pacing. And he goes, be careful where you step when you go up there, because there's blood along the floor. All right, because she'd been dragging her feet, and it just like gnawed her feet down. It was causing them to bleed out.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, right then, their son comes out of the kitchen or something. He's like, hey, what's up, you guys? We're like, hey, what's up, man? And I notice he has those t-shirts, those wife beaters, that what they're called, the tank top, real tight. And I notice he has fresh ink on. He just got tatted up because he's got ointment. I just catch this, and so we're all talking. The dude says, well, go upstairs, just be careful. She's up there. This is kind of already eerie. He's like, be careful. All right, man.
Wait, were you by yourself?
I had an officer with me. I had a young female with me. And as we walk up the steps, beautiful home. I can't reiterate how lovely this home was. As we come up off the steps, there's these double doors. And man, it's like right out of the movies. There she is. She's straight back, and she's just kind of taking that torque stance where she just tweaked, and her hair is just stringy and matted down, just all matted out. And her skin is just pasty, just like, and she's doing this breathing like, and then she pops up, right? And she just starts walking towards us. I'm going like, oh shit. And that's like, I'm going like, what do you do? I'm like, hey, come here. Give me your hands. Let's talk this out. Like, no, that's not going to work, man. And she walks right towards me, and she beelines it right back to where she was started. And she's just going back and forth, dragging her feet. And she's like hyperventilating, and her body's jerking. And I'm going like, what the fuck? No, I get the officer I'm with starts talking to her, and they're like facing each other. And this lady, she just looks at me. She just turns and looks at me, right? And she shallows her breathing, and she's looking at me, and I'm going like, what the fuck is she doing, man? I felt like red flag one, like something in her was watching me. I know that sounds nuts. That sounds like when we're looking at each other now, it's not like that. Like something was, I'm going like, this is fucking weird. So right then, their son comes upstairs, and he sees I'm engaged in this. He goes, hey man. I'm like, what's up, dude? He goes, I'm a Christian rapper. And I'm going like, what? He goes, yeah, man, I drop beats for the Lord. I'm like, okay, and I'm telling my
house.
Yeah, I'm going, we gotta get her. Let's get her out of here. And then right then, this old man comes up, and he has something in his hand, and I'll get to that in a second. He has something in his hand, and the kid does something. Red flag number 2. Kid takes a key out, and he unlocks his bedroom door and a deadbolt. I'm going, who does that?
Right.
I mean, you don't even have keys on this, probably on your doors, to the bedrooms here.
Regular.
Who has keys?
Yeah, the little inside lock on the doorknob.
And this is also custom, where it's a deadbolt.
Oh.
Like, who does that? But I'm thinking I'm not thinking. It's just like things are like, and he says, hey, check this out. And he has this little machine. You can drop, I'm like, oh, okay, dude. has his Bible, and he sees that I have tattoos. He goes, do you have to cover those up? I'm like, yeah, man. He goes, check this out. And he shows that tattoo now. And it's this angelic Christian, whatever this thing is, like a protector, a heavenly protector type thing, some religious thing. And he sees I'm watching this, and I'm telling the officer, let's go. Let's get her going. The whole time she's engaged in me, and the kid says something. And I'll never forget this. Now, again, I say demonic, or this, if it's something else, it's not like Hollywood, man. They're not crawling on the walls and heads spinning around and these voices and all that cool shit. No, this is real. And this kid says, sir, I'm like, what's up, man? He goes, this is nothing. I'm like, what do you mean this is nothing? He goes, you should hear it at night. I go, what? Jeez. You should hear it at night. I go, this is your mother. You refer to her as it? He goes, that's not my mom, bro. He goes, I don't know what that is. He goes, and that's why I lock my door. I went, fuck this, man. So we get her, right? We're like, tell the officer, we got to take her. Well, then the old man's standing there with that thing in his hand. You know how nowadays we have our phones and I can show you pictures or just send you pictures, like, this is my daughter, it's my family, whatever. Right. Jiu-jitsu, whatever we're doing. He has a Rolodex, like 3x5 pictures that maybe your parents had, like a little album. Right. And they had just moved here from maybe Idaho or Iowa. Again, lovely home. He's flipping through it, and he gets to this picture of this woman in the kitchen in that house. And that was her. And she's stunning. And I'm like, is this her? He goes, yeah. I go, what happened? He goes, we don't know. They don't know. I see, she's an addict. Is she on drugs? History of any of that?
But wait, they don't know who she is?
No, that's his wife. They don't know what happened to her, according to her husband.
Oh, so when the kid said that's not his mom.
Yeah. Well, he's saying what he's seeing, like, what she's doing
in her current state.
Yes. He goes, that's not my mom. Okay. That's not, like, what he's saying is that's not the woman I know.
Right.
Yeah. That's mom. But so
he deadbolts his door at night because of her.
Yes.
The demons come out.
Whatever it is, man. Fuck. Yeah. And we ended up, there's no dramatic, heroic ending. We ended up getting her to the psychiatric center. We gave her a ride. The breathing continued, her demeanor continued, and we turned her over to the psych center. Her husband was there, walked her in, and that was the end of it. Don't know whatever happened. But it makes you wonder, like, what's going on? Like, for her own son to go, lock it up, and he's turning his, it all made sense. It was like one of those Kaiser Sosa moments from The Usual Suspects where everything comes together, man. Like, it all made sense. He's just protecting himself. He's turning his life over to God, his talent for God, Bibles and tattoos of God, this going, wow, man, this must really be affecting this guy, man. So, right. Oh yeah. I mean, is it just some mental illness? I don't know,
I've found very intricate and mind-blowing satanic rituals and sacrifices out there. I've found different stuff before, I'll find maybe where someone was doing some voodoo, some Santeria, sacrificed a chicken, whatever. All that's like kind of normal out there. That's not that crazy. But what I found this night was very crazy. Yeah, the police came and investigated it. It made the news. And that's the facility I was hunting. It's Aerojet. It's actually an abandoned space rocket facility from the Cold War, where they were developing and testing space rockets.
And what were you hunting there?
Pythons. I was out there, hunting these snakes, and this facility is you need special access. I was given special access by the state of Florida. There's a lot of crimes committed out there. There've been murders out there, gang initiations, all kind of stuff. So we go out there. The first thing I came across was a big rock pile with a upside down wooden cross on top and a bunch of red spray painted upside down crosses all over. And you could tell the cross, I think, was burnt a little bit. Super crazy. And then I found this little doll, and as I kind of investigated that doll more, a little red scarlet snake actually came up and wrapped around her neck. There was blood coming out of it. In the other clip, it was a big Latin saying, like 100-foot long pretty much, on the road. I drove over it. We later translated it to, turn around, run, hide, he is watching you. And then I come to this big room where there's the big pentagram. In the middle of the pentagram, there is a three-legged plastic chair with a blood stain in the bottom of it, where you could tell something was killed, sacrificed, whatever. On each wall, there's 3 walls. On each wall, there's upside down crosses, Latin sayings, and all kinds of stuff. As I'm kind of walking into the room, that doll from earlier grabbed my leg. Right next to that doll, there is a saying on the ground that says, "The omen will follow," which to me was like the creepiest thing of the whole thing. And on the walls, there was, looked like red spray paint, and it said, "She was only 9, we gave her to the devil," like basically talking about sacrificing a child. So, you know, we continue on with our hunt. We end up starting to get out of there. The guys are like, "Dude, we want to go. We don't like this shit." I'm like, "All right, you know, let's pack it up. Let's go." So we start making our way out, and I see flashlights. I mean, there's one road in, one road out. There's a gate at the end of it. You can't drive a vehicle in. And I mean, we're miles out here. You have to drive miles to then walk miles, right? So I see this flashlight bouncing on the side of the road as I'm driving out. And I'm like, who the fuck is this? No, I've never seen anyone out here in my life, ever. Getting closer to him. I have my pistol in my truck. I put my pistol on my lap, you know, just in case. As I'm getting closer, about to kind of pass the guy's like, "Mike." It's my name. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm definitely shooting this guy. Like, what the fuck, you know?
My stepfather, who's like a very like sober thinking, like rational person, went to Gettysburg. And he said, "You can feel the sadness."
Yeah.
He goes, "It just feels horrible. Like you're there and you feel death." He goes, "I've never felt anything like that. Like you're at a battleground." And, you know, even though it's 200 years ago or whatever it was, less than 200 years ago, you feel it. He goes, "You can feel it." He goes, I had to get out of there.
Yeah, that's the thing with some of these places. It's not necessarily like, oh, like, you know, immediately just like, oh yeah, this is spiritual energy or whatever like that, but it's just heavy. Or it's just like you feel off when you go into these places. Like as soon as you stepped into the Conjuring house. Have you ever seen the Conjuring movies?
Yes.
So they're actually based on a real house in Rhode Island. And that was one of those places that we had walked into, and you were like almost getting nauseous.
I almost threw up, and I'm not. So what's interesting about the paranormal and what we've learned the past 4 years is that it affects people differently. Some people can see stuff. Some people claim they're mediums and can communicate more. I feel like I have more of like an empathic, like almost like I just feel worse like whenever there's something around. And so when we first walked into the Conjuring house, like there was a point where I thought I was going to throw up, and I was looking for exits.
What's the real story behind the Conjuring house? What's the actual story?
So yeah, the movie story is like this witch Bathsheba or whatever, but the actual story, there's a bunch of different things that they say are haunted, but it's actually built on the grounds of the.
Is that the house?
That's
yeah,
it.
it's creepy. It's an amazing house.
The state that launched the Conjuring universe.
There we go. Yeah.
Like, what is it? Like the Marvel Comics universe? What does that mean? The Conjuring universe? How weird.
Oh, jeez.
That's the problem. Like people, when you start making an industry out of something,
turns into a business.
Yeah. So what's the original story?
So the most famous we'll get to, but like it's built on the same grounds that the King Philip's War was fought on, like right at the beginning of the United States and everything. So the main people that haunt that are like 7 dead soldiers that this little girl always kept seeing in the walls, and thus it started manifesting more to the entire family. So this family called the Perrin family bought the place in like I think 1972, and for 10 years they said they would see, you know, these figures, these soldiers walking around, like their beds would shake, they would get scratches, like, and it kept getting worse over the 10 years. And the crazy part is it got to become famous because of like the final day that like changed it all. They wanted to do like an exorcism on the house because I think, who was the mom Perrin? Whatever.
Caroline or something?
Carolyn Perrin. Yeah, Carolyn Perrin was
like
getting like really bad. Like she would have things happen to her every single day. You know, furniture would move, all these sort of things. She was getting like really rash with everything. So she brought in these demonologists who were
Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Ed and Lorraine
if you've
Warren.
heard of them before. They're
No.
like the demonologists, the paranormal investigators. They are like the fathers of it all.
Maybe I have heard of them. Are they featured in the Zach Bagan
Yes.
Museum?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's where I've heard of them.
Yeah, which is also a crazy place.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. But yeah, so anyway.
I just went.
Really?
You just
I
went?
just went a couple,
Yeah, so they were doing this like exorcism, and
That's them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's those folks. Okay.
And
so they do an exorcism there.
they were doing an exorcism, and I don't know exactly prior to whatever happened, why they called it. She was just having a bad time, just like over the last couple of years, and they wanted it to end. And to her claim, she was actually thrown like across the
Levitated
entire like room and smashed into a wall to where she had injuries. And they were so angry about that they actually kicked out the demonologist.
They punched Ed in the face.
Yeah, they punched that guy in the face because they thought he was the guy that was like making it worse. But I think it just like pissed him off. And
He was conducting made it more angry, which in turn hurt his wife.
Oh, so he got angry.
He was like,
but
"Stop
you
doing this."
Brought him
Punched
in.
him.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly,
It's like
yeah.
hiring a priest
Sell
and
the
then
house,
punching
bro.
the priest. It's like, whatever.
Move.
Aaron family actually wrote a book about that, and
Really?
they say the Conjuring movies actually don't do it justice of all the things that happened and all the movements and the craziness that happened in that 10 years that they lived there. They were
Really?
like, in the real life, actually experiencing it and the trauma that they went through, they say it's like 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Than
And so they feel like it was dead soldiers, like murdered soldiers on the battlefield. Somehow or another, that's
Well, here's where it gets interesting is they don't know what it is, but they believe it is something more evil or demonic, whatever you believe in, that is like controlling all of these like soldiers and stuff and trapping them. Movie goes with that's a person named Bathsheba who was like a neighbor who everybody just thought was a witch. But in real life, it was just known as a demonic possession, but no trace back of like what it was.
That's an interesting thing, right? Like, because that's in a lot of these cases. They feel like it's not just ghosts, but it's ghosts that are being controlled by some sort of a demonic entity.
Right.
And the demonic entity keeps these ghosts there, which is like another layer of belief you have to have.
Exactly.
Like, you don't just believe that maybe when people die, their energy gets left behind, and then maybe that energy gets controlled by demons. But if you did encounter a demon, nobody would fucking believe you, and then you would be trapped. You would be this person who, for the rest of your life, there goes Bob and his fucking demon stories.
Yeah.
Like no one would buy it. But
exactly. Same thing with aliens or
Right.
anything. Like
Yeah,
anything you
right.
see that are outside of this like logical
Physical world.
normal daily encounters. Yeah. Anything outside of that, Bigfoot, anything where you see things. And there's been many times where people have seen things that they swear were real. And you go, God, that poor fuck. I would rather not see those things.